Hi and welcome to Kiwi Bred, brought to you this week from Masterton's Little Avondale Stud. And we start with a chat to Sam Williams about LA Stud's acquisition of former Australian-based sire, Nadeem. Sam, Nadeem began his stud career at Doull in Australia. Why the move to New Zealand?
The horse is actually owned by Shedville, and once again the contact was made through Angus. Angus rang us from the World Cup in Dubai and asked if we were interested. Second-hand stock, really not interested in. It wasn't until we looked at his figures and his statistics we were very impressed. At the time the horse had had 4 stakes winners and 34 winners from only 50-odd, 60-odd runners. So his stats were really good and very impressive. Now if we compare him to Darcy Brahma, who's currently standing at 20,000 in full, the horse was right on par with Darcy. The other thing that was really exciting is that Nadeem started in Australia for his first 4 years. So in his first crop he covered 154 mares. So you don't have to preach to the Australian trainer and to get them to buy the progeny of Nadeem. They're already there. As a yearling, Bruce Perry and I tried to buy the horse as a yearling. It's quite ironic that the horse has ended up here. Actually, my father, Buzz, actually bred Nadeem's mother, Candide. So yeah, the horse really has come home to roost. The
comparison to Darcy Brahma, how do you think he fits into the New Zealand market?
Quite similar style type of horse. Once again, that's one of the reasons why Angus rang. His progeny are looking as if they're getting over ground, and they're going to be, up to the classic distance of 1.5 miles, which is very much in Nadeem's breeding. Whilst he was an electrifying 2-year-old, the horse John Foote, his breeder, and Angus Gold always maintained was going to be their Guineas horse, and a horse that could possibly, hopefully, get over 2,000 metres. But his progeny are doing that. We've just seen Taj Meal take out the South African Oaks recently. And then you've got a filly like Shani Rose, who's already been placed in the 1,000 Guineas in Australia and ran 4th in the South Australian Oaks, who's another promising type who's looking as if she's going to get over ground and hopefully pick up a bit more black type. So look, the horse was going to cross and suit with our mares really well, based on the New Zealand mares are better for the distance horse. So similarities, they're both left Oaks winners. They're looking as if they're training on and being 3- and 4-year-olds, and like I said, he's had the 5 individual stakes winners and 46 individual winners. So yeah, look, Nadeem is going very well when you compare him to Darcy, who's had 4 stakes winners and 50 individual winners.
4 months here at LA, how's he settled in?
Settled in as if he's always been here. He's such a cruisy horse to handle and to deal with. The boys at Doull, they always said that he was one of the favourites as far as breeding with, because he's such an easy horse to handle. And yeah, look, he's fitted in so well here, and all the staff love him, so no, been no hassles at all.
Coming from Australia, he's obviously going to get plenty of interest because the Australians know a lot about him. What's been the New Zealand response to the announcement that he's arrived at Little Avondale Stud?
Simon, the response has been very positive. We've got to remember that Nadeem, whilst he was an exceptional 2-year-old, he did break his leg. He was the early favourite, joint favourite with Miss Finland for the Golden Slipper. He annihilated them all in the Blue Diamond. Broke his leg. He had that pinned, and he also had colic surgery whilst he was in the clinic with the pinning of that leg. So the horse could have been anything. Breeders here though have really got behind him, and there's been fantastic interest in him, and like I said, he will cover around 100 mares here this year, and a lot of the breeders in the Waikato and Auckland region are really going to support the horse.
Purchased at the sales for $700,000. The buyers obviously saw something in him. What do you see in him physically?
Look, he's a quality animal, there's no doubt about that, and he is a son of Reduced Choice. He's a Group 1 winning son of Reduced Choice. He was a champion 2-year-old colt of his year. So look, there's a lot to like about the horse. Yeah, there's been really positive feedback, and one of the other things is that we've managed to stand him at a service fee that is just accessible to everyone. A lot of people have been blown away with the service fee. He's come from Australia where he was standing at 20,000, 30,000 in his early books, and standing for 8,000 Kiwi pesos.
You talked about that $8,000 service fee. How did you come about that?
Shedville would have liked to have stood the horse for a lot more, but once again they appreciated how well a job and how well received Per Incanto had been here at Little Avondale Stud, and you know, like we said, 140 odd mares and a quality book. So they actually came to the party, you know, pretty much in agreement, which was fantastic, and they're very well, really good to deal with. The other thing is they've already sent mares over from Australia to both horses for this coming season.
Well, Nadeem looks well suited to his new home here in New Zealand. Now it's time to revisit Tim Pearce, and it's the second part in our series on the limb conformation in young horses, courtesy of International Animal Health Products.
Tim, last week we spoke about the limb conformation in horses and why it's so important. As a breeder, how soon after foaling should we have the conformation of our horses looked at?
It's a good question, because I think any owner of a brood mare and a foal, many of them, I think if they saw them the first few days after foaling, would be horrified, because many foals are weak and the angles of their legs are in all directions. And sometimes those things are just a matter of time, where the foal's weak and it needs a feed and a bit of rest after the foaling process, and those legs will straighten up. Occasionally, if they're particularly bad and weak, sometimes they need splinting, and you know, those cases are pretty rare. When we normally start to see problems in what we call normal angular limb deformity in foals is not until a few weeks of age, and often you may have a foal that gets through that wobbly stage at the start, grows a little bit, and then a month or 6 weeks into its growth, it starts to throw a knee, or you know, it may have a valgus deformity of its knee, which is angled outwards, or a fetlock, and it starts to get to a point, and because those bones are really soft and they're starting to get active, if they're not corrected and they get past a certain point, they just get worse and worse.
With the more simpler cases, what can we do to overcome these problems?
Well, a lot of the cases are simple confinement and reducing the amount of loading that the limb has, because basically this is an injury that occurs due to a problem with the growth plate of the foal, where the bone's growing from. And once it gets to a certain stage, it often will be that one side's growing faster than the other. And if you unload that limb by boxing the horse for a short time, you can improve the foal will correct itself. Now, involved with that at the same time, many people will use trimming the feet, because they wear their feet out particularly badly, and if you can trim the feet and keep that foot landing flat, that's a really big advantage. And further to that, often extensions are used if you get into them early. The extensions and trimming are more used to the lower part of the limb, where there's often angles on the fetlocks. The time frame for correcting an angular fetlock is much shorter than a knee. You've got up to about 2 or 3 months to do a fetlock, because the growth plates close earlier. So those are really quite critical to get going on those early. The ones around the knee are much less critical, and I'm talking mainly forelimbs here. Obviously, they're by far the most important, but the same things occur in the back legs. So the higher growth plate above the knee, up to 5-6 months, is quite a bit of latitude to deal with that, and even later in some animals.
How do studs manage the horse's growth within that first year for the ideal conformation of a horse?
Well, I think most of them weigh. The better studs weigh, and they know, or they've got good stockmen that check the growth. And they want an even growth rate, basically. So it boils down to good nutrition, and nutrition of balanced minerals. And in New Zealand, we're very fortunate. We've got a lot of what we consider as normal, absolutely perfect feed for horses, and that being pasture. And I think that basically the best studs will monitor their growth rates of their weanlings right through to yearlings, and they know, and they keep them on an even plane.